There comes a point in some people's lives where the pattern changes completely. Up until then, they may have been selfish, manipulative, emotionally immature, or deeply hurtful. The damage they cause is real, but there's still a sense that their behavior shifts depending on the situation. Then, gradually, something hardens. Their defenses stop being temporary reactions and become the structure of their personality itself. The mask no longer feels like a mask because they've worn it for so long that they can no longer tell where the performance ends and the person begins. This transformation rarely happens overnight. It is built one decision at a time. Every lie that avoids accountability, every relationship sacrificed instead of repaired, every uncomfortable truth replaced with a more flattering story. Every moment they choose protecting their ego over confronting reality strengthens the walls around them. At first, those walls seem protective. Eventually, they become a prison. From the outside, this person may appear more confident than ever. They can seem charming, successful, persuasive, even inspiring. They know how to say the right things, how to win admiration, how to command attention. But beneath that polished surface lies an identity balanced on a fragile foundation. Their sense of worth depends less on who they truly are and more on whether the outside world continues reflecting back the image they've carefully constructed. The tragedy is that this pattern often develops as a way of surviving earlier emotional wounds. Many people who become chronically narcissistic or manipulative learned, often very young, that vulnerability felt dangerous, shame felt unbearable, or love seemed conditional. Instead of building a stable sense of self, they built an armor. The armor worked so well that they never learned how to take it off. Over time, the cost grows. Genuine intimacy becomes almost impossible because closeness requires honesty, and honesty threatens the identity they've spent years protecting. Relationships become stages rather than partnerships. Conversations become competitions. Affection becomes something to earn, withhold, or trade rather than freely give. Every disagreement feels like an attack. Every criticism feels like proof that the entire structure could collapse. This is the tipping point. Not the moment someone becomes evil, but the moment self-protection becomes more important than truth. Once preserving the illusion becomes the highest priority, almost every decision starts serving that illusion. Apologies become strategic instead of sincere. Kindness becomes transactional instead of compassionate. Even moments that appear loving can quietly revolve around maintaining control, admiration, or emotional security. That does not mean change is impossible. Human beings remain capable of growth throughout life, but meaningful change requires something profoundly uncomfortable: the willingness to let the carefully crafted identity crack open. It means facing shame without escaping into blame. It means accepting responsibility without rewriting history. It means choosing reality over image, even when reality hurts. Many never reach that point because the very defenses that once protected them also prevent them from seeing the need to change. The stronger the illusion becomes, the harder it is to question it. That is why people around them often feel trapped in cycles of hope and disappointment, waiting for insight that may never arrive. Understanding this is not about labeling people or excusing harmful behavior. It's about recognizing that lasting personality patterns are usually built through countless repeated choices and reinforced over many years. The most important lesson is not learning how to diagnose someone else. It is making sure that in our own lives, we never become so committed to protecting our ego that we lose the courage to face the truth. That quiet choice, made again and again, is what keeps a person growing, instead of becoming imprisoned by the very mask they once created to survive. They become an embodiment of destruction itself. When a narcissist finally surrenders to the darkness inside them, when they let go of any remaining sense of right and wrong, and when they start welcoming cruelty with open arms, that's the moment they step across a line most people don't even know exists. I want you to really absorb this. So many of us think of evil as some kind of abstract idea, something you only find in movies or old stories. But that's not true. Evil is real, and it moves through people. It creeps in slowly, tempting them bit by bit, pulling them further and further until they simply stop fighting it. Narcissists make the perfect vessel for this kind of transformation because their whole existence is already built around deception, control, and an insatiable need to dominate everything around them. Now, here's something you need to understand clearly. This isn't about someone being arrogant or self-obsessed or a little selfish. This goes way beyond ordinary self-centeredness. What I'm describing is something much darker, something far more dangerous than a personality flaw. When a narcissist crosses that final threshold, when they finally abandon whatever shred of humanity they once carried, 3 unmistakable warning signs start to show up. These aren't quirky habits or annoying traits. These are serious red flags. They're loud, blaring alarms telling you that something genuinely dark has taken hold. If you miss these signs, or worse, if you choose to look past them, you're walking directly into the reach of someone who has completely lost control of themselves, someone who has traded away their humanity for something much worse. Think about this for a second. Have you ever been around someone who seems to suck the life out of every room they enter? Someone who almost feeds off the suffering of the people near them? Or someone whose manipulation is so cold and calculated it feels almost robotic? That's not typical behavior. That's not run-of-the-mill dysfunction. That's someone who has gone far past any normal limit. And here's the hard truth about it. Once they cross that line, there's no coming back. You cannot reason with a person like this. You cannot talk sense into them. You cannot save them because deep down, they don't want saving. They've chosen deception over honesty, chaos over growth, and dominance over genuine love. If you let someone like this into your world, if you get pulled into their games, or if you convince yourself that you can outsmart them, you're putting yourself in real danger. So pay close attention because I want to walk you through the 3 chilling signs that tell you a narcissist has fully surrendered themselves to darkness. If even one of these signs shows up in someone close to you, that's your cue to leave. Walk away. Get yourself to safety. Understand that you're not dealing with someone who's simply struggling or someone who just needs a little support. You are dealing with something far more sinister. There was a season when they wore a mask of goodness, when they tried hard to convince the people around them that they were decent, that they had a conscience, that some flicker of humanity still lived inside them. That season is over now. When a narcissist fully gives themselves over to the darkness, they don't just cause pain anymore. They start to genuinely enjoy it, and that's exactly where the real horror begins. At first, you might only notice small shifts. Something about the way they behave starts to feel different. They no longer just argue with you, they mock you outright. They don't simply deceive you anymore, they actually take pleasure in the chaos that follows. There's a disturbing calm in their eyes when they watch someone crumble, a grin that spreads across their face when sadness sets in, a flicker of excitement the moment they realize they've shattered someone's confidence or made them question their own sanity. Most people who hurt others do it out of fear, anger, or a weak moment they later regret. But these individuals hurt people on purpose. They do it because it nourishes something inside them, because someone else's suffering hands them a sense of power nothing else can replicate. That's how you know you're no longer looking at a simple personality issue. What you're witnessing is evil actively operating through a person. Watch their face the next time they humiliate someone. Watch them the next time they lie just to make you second-guess your own reality, or the next time they deliberately wound someone's feelings. Do they show any remorse, any hesitation or inner conflict? Or do they look like they're enjoying themselves? Do their eyes light up with a twisted kind of satisfaction? Do they lean in, almost eager to witness the emotional wreckage they've caused? If that's what you see, you are no longer looking at a person with a functioning conscience. You're looking at someone who chose to abandon it entirely. And here's what makes this even more terrifying. Their cruelty isn't reserved for people they dislike. That would almost be understandable. No, they do this to everyone, friends, family, romantic partners, even their own children. In fact, the closer someone is to them emotionally, the more satisfaction they get from tearing that person down. That's precisely why nothing you offer them is ever enough. You can pour out your loyalty, your love, your energy, your entire devotion, and it still won't satisfy them. They still want to see you hurting. They need it because in their mind, pain functions like currency. Their sense of power grows in proportion to how much destruction they can cause. If they manage to break you, confuse you, or make you doubt your own perception of reality, they consider that a victory. And here's the most disturbing part. They will do it again and again. There is no natural stopping point with someone like this. There's no moment where they pause and think they've finally gone too far. That moment simply never comes for them. So watch closely, study their face, notice the way they smile when someone else is in pain. Notice that dark glint that flashes in their eyes right after they've caused damage. None of that is normal. None of that reflects healthy human behavior. If part of you still believes they'll eventually change or that one day they'll wake up overwhelmed with regret or shame, you're mistaken. There was a time when they at least tried to hide their lies, when they wove stories with just enough truth mixed in to keep you doubting yourself. But now they don't even bother covering their tracks. They don't need to anymore. They've reached a place where reality simply becomes whatever they decide it is in that moment. They lie constantly, without fear, without hesitation, without even a flicker of guilt. And the most unsettling part of all is that they actually believe their own lies. You could set undeniable evidence directly in front of them. Documents, clear facts, eyewitnesses, none of it would matter. They will look you dead in the eyes and insist it never happened. They'll tell you that you're wrong. They'll tell you that you're the actual problem. And they'll say it with such conviction, such unwavering certainty that for a brief moment you might genuinely start to question your own memory. That's how deeply this distortion runs. That's how powerful their manipulation has become. This isn't ordinary lying anymore. This is an attempt to rewrite reality itself. They alter the past as it's happening and expect you to simply accept their version without question. And if you push back or refuse to go along with it, that's when they flip the entire situation and turn it against you. Suddenly, you're the unstable one. You're the liar. You're the person nobody can trust. They twist the narrative so smoothly, so effortlessly, that even people who witnessed the truth with their own eyes start to doubt what they saw. This is how they maintain control of the story. This is how they hold on to their power. They aren't just manipulating individual people, they're manipulating reality itself for everyone around them. The more they get away with this behavior, the bolder they become. They start testing boundaries by telling lies so outrageous, so obviously false, that you'd assume there's no way they could actually believe them. But they do. And if some part of them doesn't quite believe it, they force themselves to anyway. Because once a narcissist reaches this stage, truth stops mattering entirely. The only thing that matters to them is whichever version of events benefits them the most in that moment. And this is where things get truly disturbing, because they don't just lie about what they've done, they lie about who they even are. Their entire identity becomes a performance. One day they're the victim, the misunderstood soul who has suffered unfairly at the hands of everyone around them. The next day they're the hero, the savior, the person who has always tried their best and always been right. They shift between these roles effortlessly, transforming into whichever version earns them the most sympathy, praise, or control over the situation. If you ever try to expose the truth or tell others what's really happening, brace yourself, because they will do everything in their power to destroy your credibility before they let that happen. They will turn the people around you against you. They will construct an entire narrative where you become the liar, the manipulator, the unstable one who can't be believed. And here's the painful reality of it all. Most people will believe them. By the time you finally find the courage to speak up, they've already planted seeds of doubt, spread their own version of events, and rewritten the past to suit their needs. Once their version of the story takes root in other people's minds, it becomes nearly impossible to undo. In the beginning, they pretended to care about you. They mimicked human emotion convincingly, playing the role of someone who felt guilt or genuine regret. They acted as though they were truly sorry for the pain they caused. But all of that performance has vanished now. There's no hesitation left in them, no second guessing, no lingering sense of right and wrong. They hurt people, they betray people, they destroy lives, and they feel absolutely nothing while doing it. You need to watch them closely, because when an ordinary person causes harm to someone else, they usually carry that weight with them afterward. They might deny it outwardly or come up with excuses to justify their actions, but somewhere deep down, some part of them still knows the truth. It keeps them up at night. It makes them wonder if they crossed a line they shouldn't have. But for a narcissist who is fully surrendered to darkness, that human capacity for guilt is completely gone. They don't lose sleep over the damage they've done. They don't hesitate before striking. They never stop to question their own motives. They simply take what they want, break whoever happens to be standing in their way, and keep moving forward as though nothing happened at all. If you try to confront them, if you attempt to show them the depth of the damage they've caused, they'll stare back at you with empty, indifferent eyes, completely unmoved by your pain. Or worse, they'll smirk, genuinely amused that you still believe they have a conscience, that you still think they're capable of feeling remorse. They will watch you cry, they will watch you suffer, and in that moment all they'll feel is a deep, satisfying sense of triumph. In their distorted mind, your pain means they've won. What makes this dynamic even more dangerous is that they're no longer restrained by the natural limits that hold most people back from causing harm. Fear of consequences has completely disappeared for them. The shame of being caught doesn't register anymore. They never feel the crushing weight of guilt, and that's exactly why they get worse as time goes on. That's why the damage they leave behind keeps growing larger and larger. Their betrayals become more severe and more damaging because there's nothing left inside them holding them back. They shatter your trust without a second thought. They manipulate entire situations without hesitation. They destroy people's reputations without a single trace of regret. They steal, they cheat, they lie, they burn every bridge in sight, not because circumstances force them to, but simply because they want to. They find a strange sense of power in destruction itself. And every time they get away with it, they feel even more untouchable than before. Here's the terrifying truth about people who reach this stage. They genuinely do not care who gets hurt along the way. It doesn't matter to them whether you're a devoted friend, a loving partner, an innocent child, or a protective parent. If you happen to stand between them and what they want, you become expendable in their mind without a second thought. If tearing your life apart gives them any kind of advantage, that decision has already been made before you even realize what's happening. They will look you straight in the eye and tell you they love you, and in that very same breath, they'll be quietly planning your downfall without feeling a flicker of guilt. To them, the entire world is nothing more than a game or maybe a chaotic battlefield. In their eyes, there are only winners and losers, and they'll do absolutely anything necessary to make sure they never end up on the losing side. When a person has no guilt, no remorse, and nothing resembling a conscience left inside them, nothing is off limits anymore. They stop manipulating people on a surface level and start manipulating reality itself. Their hold over you stops being purely emotional or psychological and starts feeling almost unreal, as if they've somehow learned how to bend perception itself, twisting the truth right in front of everyone's eyes. They pull the strings of everyone in their orbit with unsettling precision. They don't lie casually or react on impulse. They plan every single word they say. They calculate every move, every pause, every silence, every carefully timed delay, because all of it is designed to steer other people toward their ultimate goal. The most frightening part of this entire process is that most people never even notice it's happening until it's far too late. It usually starts small, a slight shift in tone, a quiet glance, a perfectly timed pause in conversation. They know exactly how to plant seeds of doubt, how to make you question your own thoughts. They drop hints slowly over time, leaving just enough uncertainty that you begin wondering whether your own instincts can even be trusted anymore. Once they succeed in making you question your own perception, they've achieved complete control, because now they fully own the narrative. And it doesn't stop at words. They control the entire atmosphere and energy of a room. The moment you step into a space with them, you can feel it instantly. Their presence dominates the environment even when they're completely silent. They can steer an entire conversation with a single glance. They can make someone feel utterly worthless with just a look, or make someone feel incredibly special with a perfectly timed compliment. They don't just understand how people think, they weaponize that understanding. What makes it even worse is that they know exactly how to engineer dependency, how to make their victims rely on them for validation. They create chaos in someone's life, breaking that person down piece by piece, and then swoop in, acting like the only source of comfort and safety left standing. One moment, they push someone right to the edge of their breaking point, and the very next moment they play the hero, acting as if they're the only one capable of fixing the very damage they caused in the first place. This isn't simple manipulation anymore. This is full psychological entrapment. They pit people against each other with disturbing ease. They whisper half-truths, plant subtle doubts, and let them spread quietly like poison through relationships. Before you even realize what's unfolding, they've turned your closest friends into strangers and your partners into rivals, all while sitting back comfortably and watching the chaos they created. And when everything eventually falls apart, they position themselves as the victim or as the misunderstood one everyone turns to for comfort and answers. If you think you can outplay them at their own game, think again. While you're still reacting to their last move, they're already several steps ahead, planning the next one. While you're busy trying to explain yourself to the people around you, they're already setting up their next lie. They don't play by any conventional rules, and they certainly don't follow the standards society expects. They invent the rules as they go, and just when you think you've finally figured them out, they change the entire game without warning. These aren't just manipulators. They're architects of illusion. They don't merely lie to your face. They reshape reality itself to fit whatever twisted version of the truth serves them best. Once they've pulled you deep into their web, once they've rewritten the story so many times that you genuinely can't tell what's real anymore, they know they own you completely. That's the moment their control over your life becomes absolute. There was a time when they pretended to be good people. They wore a convincing mask of morality, acting as though they deeply respected honesty, integrity, and truth. They said all the right words and played the part of someone who genuinely cared about doing what was right. But those days are long gone now. These days, they don't just reject goodness, they actively mock it. They don't simply ignore faith, they hold it in contempt. If you watch them closely, you'll see it in how they speak, how they carry themselves, and how they react to anything sincere or meaningful. They don't just avoid the truth, they attack it head on. They ridicule people who try to live with integrity. They laugh at those who genuinely try to do the right thing. They tear down anyone who still believes in honesty, love, or faith, because deep down, that kind of truth exposes exactly who they really are. Faith reminds them of everything they can never become. And genuine goodness holds up a mirror they simply cannot bear to look into. So instead of confronting that reality, they try to destroy it wherever they find it. Instead of doing the work to change themselves, they try to corrupt everything and everyone around them. Watch them the next time someone brings up honor, love, responsibility, or truth. You'll see them roll their eyes or sneer with disgust. Genuine goodness irritates them at their core. They can't stand being near anything pure because it only highlights how hollow and broken they feel on the inside. Rather than trying to grow or become better people, they'd rather tear everything down around them. They'd rather drag everyone else into the darkness with them than admit, even for a second, that light actually exists. They mock the idea of ever being held accountable. They dismiss the thought of facing real consequences. They laugh off any notion of a higher power watching or seeing through their deception. They carry themselves as though they're completely untouchable, as though they answer to absolutely no one, as though they've appointed themselves their own personal gods. That's precisely when you know they've crossed an incredibly dangerous line. When someone genuinely believes they're above accountability, there's essentially nothing they won't do to get exactly what they want. Here's the truly chilling part of this transformation. They don't just abandon goodness within themselves, they actively work to destroy it in the people around them too. They'll test you relentlessly, they'll push against your boundaries, pressure you to abandon your own values, mock your beliefs, and try to make you feel foolish for even having principles in the first place. They want to see you break under that pressure because the weaker you become, the more power they gain over you. The instant you stand firm and refuse to give in to their demands, you'll finally see their true face emerge. The charm evaporates instantly, the mask slips away, and what's left underneath is something cold, bitter, and deeply hostile toward anything resembling goodness. They'll erupt into fits of rage, not because they're strong, but precisely because they cannot tolerate anything they can't control or destroy. That's the exact moment you realize you're not dealing with a difficult person anymore. You're dealing with something far darker than that. There's something deeply unsettling about their presence, and you'll feel it long before you can even put it into words or explain it logically. It's not just about the things they say or do to you directly. It's about the specific energy they carry with them wherever they go. It feels heavy. It feels draining. It becomes genuinely hard to breathe when they're standing close to you. Being in their presence feels like walking through a thick, suffocating fog, where your thoughts scatter and your inner strength feels weighed down by something you can't quite name. This isn't a coincidence, and it's definitely not just your imagination playing tricks on you.